If anybody would like to sit down, I see a few seats up front. Sorry.
Good to see you there. An old block of sand.
If you have an empty seat beside you, how about raise your hand? So we got a couple of empty seats here and 2 in the back. If anybody'd like to sit down, there's some over here. They're going to raise these rolling doors to my left. So if y'all just kind of step away from them. There we go.
Turn that over and sit on that. Just don't block the side.
We got a couple of minutes, but I just want to say thank you all for coming. And we got such a huge crowd. Sorry we don't have any more chairs than we do, but we got every chair the fire department had, and we went and got more. Because of the huge crowd we had tonight, this may be a little different from other forums that you've been at, but this is Sedley Women's Club Forum, and this is how we're going to conduct it. So, the first thing we're going to do is start off with prayer. Jim Foreman from Sedley Baptist Church is going to lead us in prayer.
Let us pray. Lord Jesus, we thank you for this day, this time, this place. We thank you for the opportunity to learn about each candidate, to grow in our knowledge, and Lord, to make the right choice. Lord, we pray that you would lead everything that happens in this place tonight. We pray, Lord, that you would guide each word that is said. And Lord, we just pray that you would watch out over us. Help us in our words and our attitudes and our actions to honor and glorify you in all our ways. We pray this all in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. So the GFWC Sedley Women's Club would like to welcome you tonight to this public forum. I'm Gloria, and all of our Women's Club members have on blue Women's Club shirts, so if you need anything while you're here, just reach out to one of them and they'll be glad to help you. There's restrooms up front, restrooms in the back, and we're going to have light refreshments afterwards. At this time, could I ask all of you to silence your cell phones? So we'll take a moment to do that. So we're pleased tonight to have our 4 candidates running for sheriff, and the candidates for treasurer, Cindy Edwards, Rhonda Griffin, and for Commissioner of Revenue, Amy Carr and Jennifer Cutherson, with us tonight. We also, over on this side, and with the red tablecloth, and over there, can you raise your hand, somebody that's near it? We have voter registration forms. So if you're not registered to vote, you can pick one of those up and they need to be billed back to the registrar's office. So here are the rules of the form. Each candidate for sheriff will have 10 minutes to speak, to introduce himself and state his platform for office. We will do this in alphabetical order according to last name. So John Brown, Tommy Potter, Mark Turner, and Josh White. You've been given index cards when you came in. If the candidates do not address a question that you have during the platform speak, then write your question on a card. We're taking them up, and the moderators will ask the question. We don't want to be here all night. We anticipate to be out by 8:30, so we will ask questions. We will get questions done as quickly as possible, and we want to keep our questions directed to the rules and the objectives of the platform. If you do have a card and you have a question already written down, just raise your hand and the one that's called members will take those up. The candidates have 2 minutes to respond to your questions when they're asked, and we will attempt to address every question that we can. And after the forum, huge crowd, we have some light refreshments. We hope that you'll partake. You'll have time afterwards to talk with the candidates, visit the tables of the Treasurer and Commissioner of Revenue if you can find them. Can you wave at us so they know who you are, or stand up and wave at us? So, thank you. So thank you for joining us this evening, and we hope this will be very informative to us, to the community, and that your questions will be answered. So first up will be John Brown.
Good evening.
Good evening.
They put me first, they won't have to move the microphone up at one time.
Can
The
you hear
shortest
me?
one in the group.
Can you hear me?
How about now? How about now?
Yeah.
Great. I'm not really known for being real quiet, so y'all be able to hear me real good back there. I'm John Brown. I am running for sheriff. I've been living in Newsom now for over 25 years. My family made my family there in Newsom. My wife is a school teacher at Riverdale. She's been there for over 25 years as a teacher. I have a son that is 15, which goes to the high school, and a daughter that is 18 that goes to Chowan College. I just turned 54 years old, and I retired in 2018 from the Virginia State Police after 33 years in law enforcement. 28 of those years was with the Virginia State Police. My home is in Southampton County, North Carolina, which is just across the Meharry River. That's where I'm originally from, so it's not far from here when you're on the south end county. I will be proactive in the cooperation between all the emergency responders, all the fire department rescue squad. I'm a member of the Newsom Volunteer Fire Department, have been since 1995. I've held several different offices there with the fire department, from president, vice president, secretary, on their boards, the board of directors that they have. I started my law enforcement career in 1986 as a deputy in Northampton County with the Weldon Police Department. Was a police officer, promoted to sergeant, stayed there about 3 years, left there, went to the Virginia State Police because of everything that they had to offer. They had a lot of different stuff. You know, state police is a lot different than highway patrol. A lot of people don't realize that. As a trooper, you have the same power as a sheriff by the code. I was promoted to Trooper 2, promoted to Senior Trooper, and got promoted to Sergeant. My current job is I'm a Special Investigations Manager over at the Federal Prison in Winton, North Carolina. I have 4 agents that work under me. I'm kind of like the police chief of that entire institution. We have about 1,500 inmates there, and we have about 310 employees. I graduated from the Northampton County High School in 1983. Graduated from the North Carolina Justice Academy in 1986. Wilson Community College in 87. Coastal Plains Law Enforcement Academy in 1988. Virginia State Police Academy in 1991. And the Federal Correctional Academy, obviously, in 2018. I've been involved in my community through Newsom's Athletic Association, Fire Department, Robert Hill Fraternal Order of Police, Forks of the River Hunting Club, Bronco Riding Gun Club. I worked as a trooper here in Southampton County from 1993 to 2007. I was promoted to senior trooper in 2004 and sergeant in 2013. And when I was promoted to sergeant, I went to Emporia for my last assignment, where I retired from. I had 24 troopers and 2 civilian employees that I took care of over there and supervised. I was a member of the Virginia State Police Tactical Team from 1997 until 2011. So what I bring is a lot of experience that I feel is needed. And the experience is a lot of different ways. The experience goes over a period of 33 years of doing all kinds of different stuff. I've worked on budgets. I've worked on tactical operation plans. I've worked on no-knock search warrants. I've worked on a lot of different smorgasbord of things that brings my experience into play, especially as aiming to be the sheriff of this county. You know, being the sheriff takes a lot because you got pulled in so many different ways. Not only do you got to worry about where your money's coming from when you have to have a car that's broke down because it hit a deer, to an officer-involved shooting. All that can happen in just split seconds. You got to be able to relate to each one of those. Protection of our kids and our schools, that's one of our most precious commodities, and we have to do that. You know, security is a very interesting work, especially when you do investigative work. Investigative work is where a lot of my experience comes from at present. We investigate so many different things. You'd be surprised at what we investigate at where I'm at. Anywhere from an inmate death or homicide, all the way up to one of them having a cell phone. It's very interesting. Employees bringing in contraband. The experience is unbelievable. There are things that we need to really discuss, and I know some of the candidates don't really believe in it. I know some candidates do. One thing that the sheriff's office has got to become is accredited. That is huge. And I know people talk about cost, but the cost totally do not outweigh what the worth is. The worth of accreditation is huge. Accreditation means that you have to follow certain rules and regulations no matter who you are, from the sheriff completely down. Because to keep that accreditation, you have to do certain things. And there are things that are out there for employees that they can turn to, grievance procedures. Code of Virginia has got it in its code what a grievance procedure is. There are a lot of different things out there when you're accredited where another agency comes in and checks behind you. They do a check and balance. What your paperwork is like, how you do your forms, how you handle your evidence, is it controlled, who controls it? Everything that's done, from how the police car is set up, how the stuff on your uniform is set up, the entire network of things. And this is one thing that really needs to be really considered, no matter who the next sheriff is. That is really huge. I bring experience because every department that I work for, including the one that I work for now, is what is called ACA. It's the American Correctional Association Accreditation. So there's certain things that I have to do in the job that I do now to make sure that it's correct, to meet that accreditation. And it's done every 3 years, and then you do your own accreditation every 2, and then every year you do an in-house. So it's a 3-step deal. So like the first year, you may check your own to make sure it's correct. The second year, you'll have a different unit from inside your department will come in and check it. And then the third year, outside agency actually comes in to make sure you're doing it correctly. And it's a check and balance, especially when we're using the kind of money and the kind of things this sheriff's department is using. It's a $6.9 million budget, and that's a lot of money. And for one person to have control of such an amount of money, it needs to be some checks and balances to it. I'm not, the way my understanding is, the way the budget's set up is it's a big smorgasbord. I've actually looked at some of it, and I don't quite understand how it's actually being kept up with, to be honest with you, the way it's broke up. And I think some of the other candidates have said the same. You got different breakups for some of the same equipment and stuff that we're buying. So I would like to say I've got a lot of experience. I've worked here as a trooper, and I would appreciate your vote November the 5th this year to make positive change towards the Southampton County Sheriff's Department. Thank y'all very much for coming tonight. Appreciate you.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. Those of you that know me best know that when there's 6 feet of snow on the ground in December, I'm sweating. And so it's no snow on the ground tonight, but it is definitely a little warm in here. So again, thank you for coming out and listening to each one of us. Tonight I decided to do something a little different. You guys a lot of you, I look around this room, have been to other forums we've had. I have a website, we have a Facebook page, and you can look and you can see my resume and you can read my work experience. But tonight, I want to let you see a different side of the man that's running to be your next sheriff. You need to understand what the heart of the man is that's running to be your next sheriff. Most of my life, adult life, there's been some type of a title that's been attached to my name. Whether it's been a volunteer firefighter, an EMT, whether it was a police officer, a canine handler, or a corporal with the police department, whether it's been an investigator or investigative sergeant, or now a lieutenant. There's been a lot of titles that have been attached to me. But you know what, folks? Those titles do not define me. And so tonight, I want to share with you the things that define me as a man, define me as a leader. There's 3 very simple things. The first one is my faith. At the age of 13, I accepted the greatest gift that I think anyone can ever receive, and that's when I vowed my life and accepted my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ in my life. So for the last 30-some years, daily, I've tried to walk that relationship out. There's been days that we all do, we fall short in that relationship. But it's a good thing to know that we serve a forgiving God and that we serve a God of second chances. I'm proud to say that I've been a member of the same church for over 36 years. And that as I look around this room, I see young people that I was their youth group leader and I was their youth pastor that are now grown adults and raising children and being a productive member of this society. That defines me. Second, while I'm a man of faith first, secondly, I'm a husband and a father. My anniversary is next week, and over 18 years ago, actually 19 and a half years ago, I met a lady that I fell madly in love with. And for the last 18 years, we've been raising 3 wonderful kids. So yes, I'm a husband and I'm a father. And like every relationship, I love her with my very being, but there are days that I don't like her. And guess what? There are days that I find it hard to believe that she doesn't like me. We'll have to talk about that later. But at the end of the day, it's all about commitment. It's all about sacrifice. It's all about putting her needs and others' needs, my kids' needs before my own. And yes, I talk about my kids. I have 3 wonderful kids. And every day for the last 7 months, I've ran a campaign that when I look into their eyes, I'm proud of the campaign that we've ran. I'm proud of the platform that we put out. Just like my marriage, just like my relationship with my kids, it is a commitment. And it's the same commitment that I made on February 17th when I decided to run for sheriff. And we put out a platform of being accountable, focused, and engaged. Lastly, is friends. And I'm the first one to admit that I don't have a large circle of friends. I hold my friends close to my chest. They are friends. They are confidants. But one thing that I see in my friends is the values that's reflected in this community. I see a loving community. I see a caring community. I see a compassionate community. I see people who rally around when our community's been devastated. I walked the streets of Franklin after Hurricane Floyd. I saw the devastation. I lived that devastation 12 hours a day, month on end. I live in the Sunbeam area. I was looking today and looking how nice the cotton crops look. They were harvesting peanuts next to our house. But I can remember times when the crops weren't that good. And I've seen our farmers suffer. And I've seen our farmers wonder how they were going to pay for their equipment, how they were going to buy seeds for the next year. We've even recently been reminded of how precious life is. We've all experienced death in our community. We've experienced sickness. I'm reminded of a young man right now that's battling a deadly disease at CHKD. But I see a community that has rallied around this young man. I see a community that's rallied around this family. And it reminds me of what makes this community great. It reminds me of why, as an 11-year-old boy, when my family moved here, I knew this was home for me. It reminds me of why people said, why do you want to run for sheriff? Why would you do this? Because I see those things that we talked about, a loving, a caring, a community where I want to raise my kids, where I hope my kids have grandkids and decide to stay here and not move away like so many other people are. And so guys, while it's not my resume, while it's not my work experience, like I said, you can read that on cards in the back. You can go to our website. You can read our Facebook page. But those things, faith, family, and our friends, this community, that's what drives me to be your next sheriff. It's those things that'll guide me into make decisions and face some challenging times ahead. And yes, Southampton County and the city of Franklin has some challenging times ahead. I've said it before. Our communities are at a crossroads. And this election is vital, whether you're talking about the sheriff, whether you're talking about the other constitutional officers or the board of supervisors. We are at a crossroads in our community. And so again, it's those things that drive me to be your next sheriff. And it's for those things, along with my work experience, along with the proven experience, 21 years in law enforcement, is for those things and those reasons alone that I ask for your vote on November 5th.
First, I'd like to thank the ladies in Sedley and the Sedley Fire Department for hosting it, and it is a lot of people in front of me now. So, I'm Mark Turner, and I'm from Branchville, and don't confuse me with Bruce Turner, he's from Sedley. We are not related, but he will tell you his daddy and my daddy are both daddies. That's how we're related. I live in Branchville. I was born and raised in Branchville, built my house in Branchville. Me and my wife built a log cabin, and that's where we live. I graduated Southampton High School, Southampton Middle School, Boykins Elementary School. I met my wife in middle school. I started dating her in high school. She just won't leave. We got married, and here she is. Anyway, after high school, I went to Radford University, where Kelly went to Rafford University. She graduated with the smart degrees, chemistry and biology. I graduated with criminal justice. I knew going into college that criminal justice was where I wanted to go because I wanted to be a cop. So in 1999, Sheriff Francis called me and said, I got an opening, come to work. And the rest is history. I started at the jail farm. I went to the jail. I went to patrol. Then I went to narcotics. I stayed in narcotics for a very long time. Worked with the state police task force, worked with the federal task force, had state badge. At one point I had a state badge, a county badge, and a federal badge all in one pocket. And, you know, I thought I was the man. But after 4 years with DEA, I came back to the sheriff's office where I started working as a detective in investigations. Sheriff Stutz became sheriff almost 8 years ago, and he promoted me to sergeant. So from 4 years ago till last Friday, I was sergeant. And last Friday, I was transferred to jail farm after 20 years at the sheriff's office, which is where I work now, in jail farm in Capron. I'm a jailer in Capron. And a lot of people might look at that transfer and say that's some kind of punishment. However, I work at the pleasure of the sheriff. I'm thankful for my position, and it's a chance to revisit my roots. That's where I started, and it hasn't changed in 20 years. It's fallen apart, but it's salvageable. Some people don't understand the sheriff does have the highest authority. He can hire, fire, promote, and demote as he sees fit, and there's no question. If you want to know the reason for my transfer, we'll ask the sheriff. I mean, that's the responsibility that he has. Sheriff's office policy says I can't come up here and bash the sheriff's office. I can't speak out. I can't reflect negatively. And that's hard in a campaign when you're trying to step away from the sheriff's office and distinguish yourself with something different. I do see things need to change. So, like I said, if you want to know why I was transferred, ask Sheriff Stutz. Now, a lot of people look at my transfer as a punishment. I see it as an opportunity. I started it there, and I'm back. I was 22 years old, walked into a jail farm, had a fancy brown uniform on, dicky pants, dicky shirt, one patch on the sleeve, and a badge. When I got off duty, some people thought I was a UPS man. I'm out there, the uniform's a little bit different, but the building is the same. Then the deputies are the same. 22 years old, they threw me into a dormitory, and at the time there was 60 inmates on one side, 60 inmates on the other side. I'd never been around inmates, and day one, I'm in there by myself with 60 inmates. That is sobering. They're all in orange jumpsuits, and I'm just walking around. So, it's at the jail and at the jail farm is where I learned to resolve conflict verbally. If you can't solve it with your words, it's going to escalate. And you can't solve a fight with 60 inmates with any force. I don't care what kind of UFC fighter, whatever training you have, they're going to win. I learned to listen, and most importantly, I learned to treat them as I would want to be treated if I was in their shoes. Yes, they're inmates, but some of them were my neighbors. They're all human beings, and they're there because they made mistakes and poor choices. So I'm back, and now I have a completely different perspective of the jail farm. Most people think about the sheriff's office, the first thing they think of is the fancy cars, the SWAT team, the canine officers, but they forget that half of the deputies there work in detention. They're the ones every day of every year, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, they're behind the scenes, they're guarding the inmates. It's half of the deputies that you don't see, you don't hear about. They come to work every day, they drive their own cars, and they don't carry guns. They work behind the scenes. The sheriff's office employees are working just as hard there as they are on the street. And same thing at the jail and jail farm. Now, in the previous forum, I did mention that the jail and the jail farm staff, they're about 10 deputies short. I've seen the schedule. Those guys are working a tremendous amount of overtime just to make day-to-day operations work. Turnover rate's really high in the jail and the jail farm. Retention rate is super low. Morale is horrible. So I'm using the next couple of weeks. There I am. I'm going to figure out what's wrong because it can be fixed. I'm working right alongside the deputies. I'm working along with supervisors, and I think I can address these issues and find a solution, a common sense solution. Now, politics has just gotten out of hand, both nationally and locally. I don't condone bashing my opponents, especially on social media. I'm running on my own merit. If it wasn't for this election, I wouldn't even have a Facebook page. I started one 2 years ago just so I can get some friends, and now I've made a sheriff. If I wasn't running for sheriff, I wouldn't be on Facebook. I despise Facebook, but it's a necessary evil. Social media is used for too many of the wrong reasons. It gives bullies a platform. I won't respond. You can write what you want. I'm not gonna respond. I just don't believe a sheriff should engage in an online debate. It's just unprofessional. It's distasteful, and it's just not the campaign I'm gonna run. Again, I appreciate the opportunity Sheriff Stutz has given me at the jail farm, and I'm gonna use it to study the dynamics and find improvements. So like I said, the sheriff has the ultimate authority to promote, demote, fire, and hire. And he doesn't have to provide an answer why. So think about who you're going to put in office in November the 5th, because they're going to have that same responsibility. Now, moving to my platform a little bit with every time I have left. It's really 5 points, pledge, if you will. Fiscally responsible. I want to work within my budget. We all know there's a courthouse looming. We all know taxes are going to go up. We're going to have to pay for a renovation or a complete rebuild. It's going to affect all of us, and it's going to affect the sheriff's budget. He's going to have to find ways to cut it. There's no way around it. It's coming. We can't stop it. As a sheriff, I don't have a special vote. I don't have the ability to say, no, you're not. It's coming. One of my main points is interagency cooperation. It's kind of ironic we're sitting in a firehouse because we, as a sheriff's office, do a terrible job working with the fire department, working with the rescue squad, working with Franklin Police Department. I'm excited to see Chief Patterson over there. I'm hoping we can build a new bridge, work with Franklin Police. It's always been a concern to me that we as deputies are in Franklin Police Department or in Franklin City serving papers, serving warrants, or whatnot. Something could be going on a block over and we don't know it. If we're in a police car, we have a badge and a gun, and we just don't know. Likewise, I don't think they know what we're doing, and there's a delay, and a delay can cost a life. State police, we just don't use the state police, and I can't answer why. If there's a crash, the trooper doesn't get notified that there's a crash. If there's a call, we need backup, the trooper doesn't know about it. They don't have scanners in their police cars, they're not listening to our channel. Why are we not notifying the state police when we have a situation? And the Commonwealth Attorney, he's overlooked, but the Sheriff's Office has a room full of lawyers that the state pays for. We do the work, he prosecutes the case. But to hand him a case without any input, he's going to turn it back. He's going to return your homework and say, I need this, this, and this, and this. Why is he not involved from the onset? Mr. Cook and his staff have repeatedly told me if there's a serious incident, no matter what time of day or night, you call me and somebody will come out. I just got lighted, so I've only got 30 seconds. I want to create a traffic division. Sedley is a prime example. We get complaints about speeders. We pull a deputy out of his area to focus on that. I can pull a deputy off the traffic division to focus on speeders. I want to focus on church security. I took a map. I tried to remember where they all were. I got to 75, and I know I missed a dozen more. And last but not least, litter. The last week that I've been at the jail farm, I know there's 5 inmates out there all day, every day, that sit in their bed and do nothing. And why are they not on the side of the road with an orange trash bag? I don't care if I have to pay a deputy extra time. Let's pick up trash, because I hate it, and it's one of my pet peeves. That's all the time I have. So thank you, Mark Turner.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank the Women's Club for putting this forum on, and I want to thank you, the citizens of Southampton County, for coming out to this forum. My name is Josh A. White Sr. I'm running for sheriff, one of the candidates that's running for sheriff. After Sheriff Stutz and Major Drury decided to retire, and after talking to my wife, Lorraine Turner White, for 32 years, who's employed at Ace Hardware, the friendly Ace Hardware dealer, the two of us decided that I should run for this position. Having worked my way up the ranks, I experienced much of the agency's responsibilities, whether it was working in the jail, serving the civil process, or even courtroom security. I'm currently the captain there,
supervising the patrol division. I've been a member of the command staff for the past 7 years, working alongside Sheriff's Office with the budget, personnel matters, inmate matters, and also one other one. But anyway, moving forward. Inmate disputes is what I want to say. And most of the day-to-day aspects of running the agency. I'm a dedicated man, have been dedicated for the last 34 years. My career started right after high school, where I went into the United States Marine Corps. Once getting out of the Marine Corps, I was due to re-enlist to go to the Pentagon. Upon Lieutenant and I didn't see eye to eye, so I decided to move forward and come and apply to the Sheriff's Office. I didn't understand it then, but after 34 years, I understand it now. The reason that happened is because the Lord felt that I could help more people by coming and being a police officer than I could be in the Marine Corps. Putting safety first has always been my mission for the county of Southampton and the city of Franklin. I am a people person. I love everybody out there, and I'll be willing to do whatever I can to help anybody. My motto is, to know your community, you must be a part of your community. And I can truly say, for the last 30 years, I have definitely been a part of the community. There has not been a ball game, football game, or outing that I have not gone to and worked. Some might say it was for the money. I say different. I was not getting a bit more for the time that I was out there than a deputy that just came in the door yesterday. There was a set fee. I did it for the love of the community. I love Southampton County and the city of Franklin. This is my home. Always have been my home. I've been asked, what kind of changes are you looking to make if you become sheriff of Southampton County? I have two things that I want to look at. First of all, I believe that the deputies need to get out and speak to people more than we do. I often ask the question, why do we only go to houses when we have a call for service? Why can't we stop by a house if somebody's out in their yard? Why can't we speak to these people? Start that community dialogue. Well, you know me, I know you. I often say there could be a case that you are investigating. By you stopping, that could be the key to your puzzle. That could solve that crime that you've been trying to solve for quite some time. Also, I believe in this. If you file a complaint with the sheriff's office, I believe that you should follow it up in 10 days. You should call people back and tell them something. If you don't have anything, say you don't have something, rather than people out there wondering what's going on with their case. I believe that we need to do that. The second thing that I want to look at is the children. Today's children look at us as we're the bad guys. I feel that we, as police officers, need to partner up with the fire department. Let these kids know that we're not the bad guy. We can start down here when they're young, go into the schools, start that touch field where you carry the police car in there, the fire truck in there. Let the kids come out, climb through the fire truck, climb through the police car. We have got to start that over again so we can get this stigma off us that we're not the bad guy. I feel that if we do this, the kids will go back home and tell some of these parents that no, they're not the bad guy, they're the good guy. So therefore, we're the ones that they're the ones that I need to run to when I'm in trouble. So on November the 5th, I'm asking that you get out and vote, first of all. But I would ask that you vote Josh A. White Sr., Sheriff, Southampton County, and the city of Franklin. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to answer the first question. And it's, why can't this event be held in a high school for others to attend with seats? Well, our club decided to do this for the Sedley community. And usually we never have this many people show up for anything in the Sedley community, so we did the best we could. So whoever wrote this question, I would say address one of these candidates to try to get them to do that for you. And then Ann is going to start asking questions, and we're going to use that mic over there. Some of them are for one candidate, some of them, all the candidates are going to ask. So we're gonna pass the mic around, and so you won't have to, but we do ask you to stand up to address the crowd.
I'm Ann Bryant, also a member of the Sedley Women's Club. Some of these questions have been answered already, so we're going to try not to repeat, and some of them are similar, so we're going to try to combine. But the first question is, I'll ask both of them together. Do we have a drug problem in Southampton County, and how will you deal with it? And if elected, how will you and your administration handle drugs and candies being passed to high school students for soft sales? So basically, how you handle drug problems in the county.
Well, what you have to do, first of all, is have a good narcotics division or a couple of officers working narcotics. And I think they have, Robbie Lynn Neave, I believe, is still on the DEA task force, I believe. But I don't know that the sheriff officer has anybody in particular that's working drugs now since March. Stopped working a while back. Yes, there is a drug problem everywhere. My kids went to that school, or were going to that school when that took place, about the candies and stuff. And what needed to, in my opinion, what needed to happen there, because I was part of that, because my kids were there, and my wife called me at work, and I'm like, I can't get there. You know, I'm stuck. I'm locked down because of where I work, but I will be on the way. But by the time that I get there, it'll be, you know, probably over with. But what I believe should have happened there to ease the parents' mind, because I thought about that, the sheriff or somebody in his place that he elected, or should have went down to the middle school, opened that auditorium up, had all the parents come into that auditorium, and if it would have been me as the sheriff, this is what I would have done, okay? I'd have had that open auditorium up, and I'd have had all the parents go down there and sort of scattered around, because the fire and rescue was saying it was a mass casualty call, which everybody was going hysterical. Kids were sick, going to the hospital. So as a parent, I mean, my heart was it. But you need to open that thing up. I will come down there and address each parent and let you know where your kid is, and tell them we're doing a criminal investigation, and we're going to find out what happened, and we're going to arrest whoever done it. I will enforce the code 100%. I have zero toleration.
So we do have a drug problem in this county. Southampton County is not immune from the problems that are faced all throughout Hampton Roads. We are uniquely situated in that we are on 58 between Emporia and the greater Hampton Roads area, and so a lot of drugs come up and down 58, and so we need to be ready to handle that. John, the Sheriff's Office does have someone else working on the task force. They do have a task force agent that's assigned to the Mahara Drug Task Force. I sit on that command staff in place of my sheriff. That task force is made up of officers from the city of Greensville, city of Emporia, Southampton County, Isle of Wight County, and the Virginia State Police. And so we need to continue to work with that task force. We need to encourage the city of Franklin to join that task force so that those that want to deal drugs don't feel like they have an island that they can run and hide in the city of Franklin. And so we need to encourage Franklin to also be a member of the task force. But folks, listen, we are naive to think that as law enforcement, we're going to arrest our way out of a drug problem. Okay? It starts with educating our kids. It starts with educating our older adults, because our older adults are just as much affected by the drug problem as our younger adults do, because of the addiction to pills that we're seeing. And when they can't get those pills, they look outside for other things. And so we've got to take a multifaceted approach to how we deal with the narcotics issue in this county and the counties that are surrounding us. Again, how do we deal with it? We approach it not from one direction, but from a multifaceted angle.
Well, I worked drugs for, and Mama hates it when I say it, I did drugs for 10 years in my career. If I had the ability to arrest every drug dealer in Franklin, Southampton County, the problem's not going to be solved, because folks are going to get in the car, they're going to drive to Portsmouth, Hampton, Newport, you name it, and they're going to buy it. And quite frankly, folks are overdosing and dying, county residents, city residents, every year, multiple times. You've all heard of fentanyl, it's here. I think the analysis is, take a sugar packet worth of fentanyl. If I dispersed it airborne in this room, every one of us is dead. It's transdermal, you get in your eye, get in your nose, we're all dead. Deputies are carrying Narcan. So first off, if we get exposed, we can save ourselves. Secondly, we can, and we have last week, saved the kid from overdosing on heroin. When I was in high school, marijuana was easier to get than it was to get alcohol. And that hasn't changed, it's easier. You can drive across the state line and buy it legally, and you're not gonna stop it. The laws are changing from marijuana to, I can drive down the road from my house and see the CBD oil plants growing, and there's no, if you're in a helicopter, you're not gonna know the difference. I used to fly and look for it, and we don't do it anymore. So, it's a tricky subject, but arresting your way out of it's not gonna work. It's a mental health, and my time is up.
Okay, I do agree that we do have a problem here in Southampton County and the city of Franklin. I do agree with Tommy, because I am on that board as well as Tommy is. And as far as the school incident, I tell you, I was there. And I tell you, Rhonda Bell, who's the principal there, did an excellent job while he was there. I feel that, in what John is talking about, yes, maybe the superintendent could have come and, because she did come to the scene and mark one room for parents. But when you're out there like that and, these parents are coming to this school, a lot of times they don't want to hear what you got to say. The only thing they want to hear is, where's my baby? So, I don't know if any of you ever had to come to the school when an incident like that is going on. Parents are not worried about the incident itself. They want to know where their baby is. And if I can tell them where their baby is, I want to tell them where their baby is to put their mind at ease. And as far as guys out here doing these drugs, I'm all for locking them up. Even though that's not going to solve the problems, there's just as many drugs on the inside as there is on the outside. So I don't know if we'll ever solve the problem, but we'll do everything that we can. Thank you.
All right, for all of you, what is your stance when it comes to our children's safety as regarding armed law enforcement officers in our schools?
I think I did it for a while. I was an SRO and for a little while in Franklin. It's a challenging job. It's one of the hardest jobs I've ever had. I do want to, I did the last form, I'm going to get a little quick for the time. It was brought up, and Dr. Modlin spoke up and talked about it, and I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I don't think she's taking a lot of heat from this community. I don't think for one minute that Dr. Modlin is saying she doesn't want SROs in our schools, and if I'm wrong, correct me, please. What she's saying is that what she wants is those people that are in our schools to be highly trained law enforcement officers that understand what the job of an SRO is. That's what we need in our schools, okay? So I think that SROs are some of the most important people we have. We have gang issues, when we have drug issues, a lot of times those SROs know about it before anybody else ever does. And so those SROs are there when we have situations like we had at the high school last year. They're the persons that coordinate the response. They know our students. They know our teachers. So yes, I'm all for it. I think we need to expand our SRO program. It costs a lot of money. But until then, I have a program, every student, every school, every student, every day, that's going to help supplement that. And it's going to help change the perspective that our young people have about law enforcement officers.
Every mass shooting came to a stop when a good guy with a gun shot the bad guy with a gun. And there's no other way I can put it. We have 2 full-time school resource officers. I know one of them's here tonight. I've lost him in the crowd. They are the safety barrier between bad people and your children. And that's 2 officers. That's only 2 schools. There's 9 other institutions, from every single elementary school to the the elementary schools in Capron and Newsoms and Ivor, and I wish I had a deputy. There's more schools than there are deputies working at any given time. Now, the deputies that are out there riding should, and I encourage, ride through the parking lot. I don't want them going into school. Ride through the parking lot, be seen, hang out there, write your reports. If you're visible, visibility deters crime. But I am for armed police officers, and I am for hiring retirees, military and law enforcement, to work part-time in the schools if need be. And that is a funding issue. It's not just a sheriff's office issue, it's a school board issue. And I'm hoping we can get our heads together and find a solution.
Yes, I'm all for the resource officers in school. When we start talking about weapons in school, I think we need to start some training. I mean, not only that, we need to teach these young kids about weapons. So, I mean, when day to day, when the officers do go by to school, and they get out of the cars and they walk through the school from time to time, the kids need to know that weapons are not good things. And the only way we're going to do this, we got to teach them about the weapon, rather than just say no weapon in the school. But there again, the SRO is the first line of our defense sometimes, because again, they do know before we know what's going on at the school. And I'm all for keeping them in the school, and anything that I can do, they will be in the school. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm gonna concur with all the other candidates. We definitely need the SROs. Last year, the Commonwealth of Virginia passed a law where they could take retired law enforcement officers and make those RSOs. So that was a good law to pass for the safety of our kids. And one thing was also said is statistics. Statistics are on two ways on any mass shooting anywhere that's happened in the country. Anytime a mass shooter is confronted by a police officer, he is either shot and killed, or if he's hemmed up, he has shot and done a self-inflicted. That's exactly what's happening in every one of them. As long as their citizens are soft targets out there, and our schools are very soft. They are very what law enforcement considers a soft target. They're going to appeal. They're going to come and try to take that soft target. But the statistics show as long as these folks are challenged, they're either going to self-inflict or be taken out by law enforcement.
All right, the next one is about the steady rise of gang-related violence in both city and the county. Aside from gang training for some deputies, what other measures will you take to combat the rising gang problem in the city of Franklin and Southampton County?
Gangs. Yes. What we need to do is, there again, is we need to educate. We got to educate people about these gangs. When I went through the FBI NA Academy, I did take a gangs class. And in those gangs classes, you could see people from Portsmouth, from somewhere everywhere, I mean, in these gang classes. One thing I did learn was this. Some of these people out there, they call themselves gangs, but really they're gang wannabes. If you want to find a true gang, you ask the gang member, what surname are you operating under? Who are you paying your tax to? If he can't tell you what surname he's operating under or who he's paying his tax to, he's a gang wannabe. Even though he's a gang wannabe, we got to treat him just as he's a gang member. So therefore, I feel that we need to combat gangs, do everything we can to step them out. I feel that with police officers, if they see a gang activity going on, what they need to do is get in the area, get in the middle of the area, show the presence of police. Believe me, when you start showing the presence of police, the people are going to start to scatter. Not saying they're not going to go somewhere else, but what I want the police officer to do, if he take up somewhere else, I want you to put that police car in the middle of wherever else he take up. Eventually, we're going to stamp him out of Southampton County and the city of Franklin.
So So I took a class with the state police, and I got certified as a certified gang investigator, and they gave me a cool pen and a little certificate, and that is the extent. And that is what our guys are doing. Now, getting certified doesn't solve the problem. And I'm going to disagree with the captain. I think wannabe gangs are more dangerous than established gangs because they are trying to establish themselves, and they're going to do that through violence and intimidation, and they're going to work harder because they don't have the nationally recognized reputation or colors, and they're going to do more. And wannabes eventually will get adopted by bigger, well-established gangs, but wannabes start in our school. They're in our school. They start in the middle school. They're in the high school. We can't deny it, and anybody trying to hide is lying to you. Wannabes is where we need to start. Working with the Commonwealth Attorney, charging them with these predicate crimes that we can compound into an actual gang charge has an extensive sentence to it other than just the act itself. If you can take an act and put a gang charge attached to it, the sentencing exponentially is increased. So, thank you.
Yes, I'm going to agree with Mark on a couple of points. A wannabe will hurt you or kill you or rob you just as quick as a regular gang member will. And so if we try to treat them as something differently, we've missed the mark. But again, we've got to go back and look at this from different angles. I mean, that's why we talk about our SROs. That's why we need to talk about our narcotics officers. Questions have already been asked. We need to use those individuals as well as our street deputies, as well as our investigators to start gathering intel files on activities of people in this community. And if you are sitting here and you don't think we have gangs that are operating within the county or within the city, talk to me afterwards and I'll tell you about that. But we need to begin to look at that. I agree. We need to build strong partnerships with the Commonwealth Attorney so that these individuals can be prosecuted for the activities that they engage with. Gang activity leads to other things. It leads to burglaries. It leads to robberies. It leads to homicides. And so we've got to stay on the forefront of the activity that's taking place in this community. We can't bury our head in the sand and say it's not happening. But again, we've got to go back to our SROs. We've got to go back to our narcotics officers. We've got to take an all-hands-on-deck approach to this and begin to track their activity and deal with it on every single level.
Yes, there's a gang problem, and this is one of the things that I do now where I'm at. We have a huge gang problem. They call it STG, Security Threat Group. I deal with Mexican Mafia, MS-13, Serenos, Pistoleros, Texas Syndicate, Aryan Brotherhood, you name them, I deal with them every day. We have to keep some of them separated from each other. And if you don't think that these gangs are ruthless, I can show you pictures. Gangs are, just like what his father said, they're the root problem to your drugs. That's where they get their money from. The home invasions, to go in and steal your guns, because they need guns. Breaking and entering, things like this. So yeah, we got to cross-train our drug enforcement people to make them our gang people also, because the two. Tattoos on a person say a lot. To you and I, or most of us in this room, if you got a tattoo, it means something personal to you. But there's certain tattoos that people wear. If you know what you're looking for, you can read that person's tattoo and tell you a story. Tells you what they're about, what they believe in, and what they'll do to keep that belief. And some of these beliefs are very strong. So yes, we need to have the training, extensive training with our drug agents, cross-train them as a gang agent to rid the problem, because it is a problem. And I do agree, the wannabes are tough. They're because they're trying to make a name for themselves, and they're very ruthless.
All right, Mr. Potter, this is for you. What did you base your opinion when deciding to choose a person from another jurisdiction to be chief deputy when you were elected sheriff?
So we have committed to bringing a fresh perspective to law enforcement in this community. I decided to pick a man that I have a lot of respect for, that has over 30 years of experience. Whether it's started out as a Suffolk police officer, became a Suffolk detective, was a long-time Virginia Beach police officer, and his wife got reassigned and they moved out here to the Franklin area, and so he worked with me for the Isle of Wight County Sheriff's Office, and day in and day out, I saw his character. I saw what type of man he was. I saw that while he didn't have stripes on his sleeve or bars on his collar, he's a natural-born leader. I saw that the young deputies in our department flocked to him for advice and for guidance. And knowing what I wanted to accomplish here at the Sheriff's Office, that's the type of man that I wanted to align myself with, and that's why I chose him.
For all of you, how will you handle the animal shelter and its current conditions?
The dog pound is a complete disgrace. There's no other way I can put it. That it barely passes state inspection every year. It's barely hanging on by a thread. I would love to say I want to make it a no-kill shelter. I have 2 dogs. I think there's a third one coming Saturday. And I have 3 horses. Me and animals, I like animals a lot more than I like people sometimes, because they don't talk back. But our dog pound, and I've talked with some of the girls that come down there, if it wasn't for volunteers, it couldn't operate. The volunteers are the sole reason that the dogs that are there are getting adopted and sent to where they can be adopted. And you can bet every January, after hunting season's over with, there's an influx of beagles that come flocking into the pound. And if it wasn't for those volunteers, we'd be putting them all to sleep. And I mean, it breaks my heart. I started out of the jail to be an animal control officer, and thank God that Bernie Francis told me to go to the road, because I don't think I can put one to sleep. Now, I understand that you can't save them all, but I'm damn sure going to try.
I don't know, that's an area I'm not familiar with, the dog pound. I know where it's at. I've never really gone in, so I can't really speak for the condition of it, but it sounds like that Mark should know, and I'll have to concur with what he said.
As far as the animal pound go, really the animal pound runs under the office of the county administration, but the sheriff carries out the duties. Yes, we have trained officers down there who go to the academy to be trained to handle animals, and we try with all aspects to try to adopt the animals out. The state vet do come and inspect the pound itself, so therefore it's not like the pound is not being inspected. But again, like I said, we do have the trained officers who go to the academy, who are trained in animals. So therefore, we do everything we can to work with other agencies as well in trying to adopt rather than put down. Thank you.
So the agency I work for now is also responsible for the animal shelter. On a daily basis, we house about 60 dogs, and I think the last count was well over 115 cats they had in there, as well as a large plethora of other animals. And I can tell you that on a daily basis, the complaints, because I handle most of the complaints that come into the Isle of Wight Sheriff's Office we get are about people, about how the animals are taken care of and how they are adopted. And so the animal shelter is a sensitive subject to a lot of people. I agree with Mark. How the shelter here in Southampton has passed inspection by the state vet is beyond me. It is in deplorable condition. And so that is something that, guys, when we talk about how important the Board of Supervisors election is, that's important because they're the ones that allocate money to that. The animal control is a county administrative function. It's given to the sheriff. The sheriff is paid a stipend. The sheriff is paid $15,000 a year to oversee the animal shelter. But the money to run that shelter is allocated by the county. And so we've got to increase our volunteers. We could not operate the shelter in Isle of Wight County without our volunteers. And so we've got to do the same thing to encourage volunteerism here, adoptions here, work with rescues to move these animals out of the pound so that we can strive to become a no-kill shelter. There are homes for these animals. We just got to be creative to find those right homes for them.
Having witnessed firsthand the terrible conditions at the Southampton County Jail and Jail Farm, what are your plans for them?
There again, I know where the jail farm is, that old Camp 20. It's been a long time since I carried somebody out there. But yeah, you know, one of the things I look at is what I'm doing today. You know, every tan uniform we look at where I'm at now is a dollar sign. And I don't see why we can't do that right here in Southampton County. So when I go to all these meetings and things that I go to with the group that I'm with, I'm a sponge for information and how they are creating this billion-dollar company through the feds and the states through these inmates. So yeah, I've got a lot of ideas I'd like to see where we could actually get some revenue in. But obviously the jail farm is in some type of shape that we'd probably have to get it in a better shape before we could start accepting it, because there are rules and regulations, especially on federal inmates, that they have to have certain things. But that's one of the things I do want to look at so far as the revenue source also.
Like the shelter, I don't understand how the jail has passed certification by the Department of Corrections all these years. You've got a facility that was built probably back in the 40s or the 50s. There's no air conditioning in that building. There's no recreational space for the inmates. There's not adequate space from my years at Franklin going over there. It's been a lot of years since then that I've been in that jail. There's not even adequate space for the current staff to operate and work in that facility. That's one of the reasons, folks, that from started this campaign, I've spoken out about this courthouse issue and why we don't need to invest $30 million into a courthouse, because this county has other pressing needs on the horizon. And whether we like it or not, we're going to have to address the jail. We're going to have to address the jail farm. We're going to have to address our schools. They need some serious attention. And so again, that's another reason why that your Board of Supervisors election are vitally important this November, is because at some point the sheriff is going to have to go to the board and say, we're going to have to make major repairs if we're going to continue to house inmates at the jail or the jail farm, and we need to. Okay, I'm not in favor of shipping inmates to Western Tyler Regional Jail. They need to be here locally. It's ease of court, it's transport, and a lot of other issues. But again, we're going to have to deal with that, and it is. That building is in a sad shape. It needs some major renovation and repair.
I see some guys in the back laughing because I've been working with them all week at the jail farm. Now, it's been 19 years since I was there, and I can drive past it, and there's a nice tall fence with razor wire, but when you go inside, you'll see that it is falling apart. But it's nothing that we can't fix within our budget. We have a maintenance department. We have inmates trained in carpentry. It can be fixed. The jail, on the other hand, I jokingly tell people that the state law mandates that we have air conditioning for the dogs. It does not mandate we have air conditioning for the inmates, and I have no problem with that. Jail's not supposed to be the Super 8 or the Ritz-Carlton. It's supposed to be jail. It's not supposed to be somewhere you want to go and you get cable TV and air conditioning. There's citizens that don't have it. The jail can be fixed. It doesn't have to be destroyed, and it's a lot of money-saving options that we can do. One of the biggest items, and it grows every year, and it affects the jail budget, is inmate health care. I think every single inmate in there is on some sort of prescription. They pass them out like Tic Tacs every shift, and that is a budgetary item, and that has got to keep going up because you can't deny them food, you can't deny them medicine, and the necessities of life is what the sheriff has to provide. I think there's 60-some in Cortland right now, and it's almost at capacity. The jail farm, I think, when I left, was 26.
I agree that we do have to do some repairs at the jail itself and the jail farm. But, you know, it's just like everything else. We got the courthouse on the docket. We have the jail and the jail farm out there. And, it's, you know, I feel that, you know, we're squeezing our citizens just as much as we can squeeze them when it comes down to with the courthouse. And then you throw the jail and the jail farm on that, then you're going to squeeze them even more. I mean, sooner or later, our citizens going to scream out and say that they can't take anymore. And then what do you do then? So, we are doing the best we can with what we are working with. So, eventually, down the line, some will have to be done with the jail and the jail farm.
Money has been mentioned several times here recently. Since money is always a question when it comes to operating the sheriff's department. What would you do to operate the department more efficiently?
I brought it up before, but we spend an exorbitant amount of money on overtime. Some people might argue it's cheaper to pay a deputy overtime than it is to hire another deputy. Well, overtime is killing the deputies. They like it in the paycheck, but the tax man gets most of that anyway. But to spend more time in that uniform at work all day, every day, if we fill the ranks that we have with the budget that we have allotted, then that's going to cut overtime. Overtime costs money. Like I just said, there is a pile of money that people don't see, and it goes to that jail. I just learned that when the cold winter comes, we're paying almost $6,000 a month just to heat the jail. And that's just heating oil that they put about 1,000 gallons every 2 weeks just to keep inmates warm. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that's not cost efficient, and that could be fixed. The money that we're spending on it can be used as an upgrade, and eventually it's going to pay itself off.
When it comes to spending, I know Mark says about filling these positions, but we at the sheriff's office is just like every other agency. We're having a hard time filling these positions. As you all know, that people are just not running to this job every day anymore because there's so much stigma that goes on with this job that people they just don't want to come into police work. There's no other way to put it. As far as with the budget, I think that I will be a good steward of the budget and work within my means. And I think that anybody that be a good steward with the money is what they got to spend. At the end of the day, you'll be done the best that you can do with what you got.
Yeah, when you're working with a budget, you got $6.9 million, so you're going to have to sit down and you're going to have to put things in perspective of what's needed to be done, what has to be done, and what you want to get done. And you're going to have to do it like a smorgasbord. You're going to have to put different things in different places. And yeah, it's a pile of money. I think there's a lot of revenue that we could generate in certain places to offset the cost of the budget. There's certain things that we can do at the sheriff's office to save some money, maybe in this corner, and maybe move that money to somewhere else. The budget that's a large budget. But this is a large county and it requires a lot, and you got a jail. I mean, I don't know what they're paying for, but I don't know whether you even know or not, but we do not, or they do not house females. Is that still correct? I just want to make sure I'm right on it. But they don't house women, so if a woman's arrested for DUI or any other crime, it doesn't make any difference. She's either got to go to, we used to take them to Sussex. I don't know what they do with them now. But, so I'm sure the county has to pay, Sussex or Western Tidewater or whoever to house that female. So yes, the money is one thing, but I think there's ways that we can go in, look at what we got to spend, look what we want to spend, and the need of where we have to spend, and we can cut here to put here to make it work.
So you guys, if you've been to any of the previous forums, you guys know that I'm a numbers person. And so, yes, and I pointed out one of the forums, the sheriff does has a $6.9 million budget. So here's what we have to do to spend that money wisely. We need to be sure that we're buying things off state contract. We need to be sure that we're taking advantage of not just our purchasing power here in Southampton County, but that we're joining other law enforcement agencies and state agencies across the Commonwealth to buy things at a cheaper and reduced rate. I've talked about implementing a fleet card system. To me, it's absolutely ridiculous that I have a deputy in Boykins and he's running low on gas, that he has to go all the way back to Cortland to the gas pumps to get fuel and then hopefully make it back to Boykins for the end of the shift. He should have a fleet card there where he can go right to the Red Barn in Boykins and get gas. He doesn't pay what's at the pump. He pays a negotiated lower state mandated cost. So we need to be sure that we're taking advantage of those type of things, whether it be from tires to vehicle maintenance to our fuel. Also, we need to, again, we talked about the budget. If you've watched my last video I did on our Facebook page, the Southampton County Sheriff's Office, look at what he's responsible for. It's a 9-page document. It's almost impossible, like John said, to follow where all the money goes. I've simplified that down to less than 2 pages. And it's not that we're trying to hide anything, because every month you can go to the Board of Supervisors and see exactly every bill this county pays. They list it out in the Board of Supervisors. But you can see the money that's allocated, and you can see the percentages of the money that goes out every month. And so if we're doing that, then we're being accountable to you. And if I have to be accountable to you, I'm going to be responsible for the money I spend every month.
Okay, we've heard your ideas that you plan to put into place when you take office. While identifying problems and having a plan for the immediate future is important, a good administrator must look to and plan for the future. Where do you see the sheriff's office heading in the next 5 to 10 years, and how do you intend on achieving these goals? So more simply, what are your plans for the future of the department, and how do you plan to make it happen?
I think earlier I explained my plans for the future, and that is get these officers out when they are in the community a little bit more. I think if we get officers out in the community more, we can better bring our community together. I also plan to work with the kids, and like I say, get these kids where they get to know us. 'Cause, I've always believed in this. If we work with these young kids, they are our tomorrow's doctors, lawyers, and police officers. And if we don't start working with them now, then we're going to be lost. And not only that, with the community itself, I feel that once we bring the community together, we're going to be all together the better for the whole. Because with the community talking to one another, you're going to be our extra set of eyes, and that's what I want. I want extra set of eyes out there for things that are going on in the community. As you know, we can't be everywhere. But if I can bring in extra set of eyes, then therefore I feel that if there is crime going on in your area, then you will let that police officer know that you have met. And if that police officer get that information, he'll know what approach to take. Thank you.
Historically, Southampton County has always been about 10 years, give or take, behind the curve. They say when Sheriff Stutz came into office, he brought us from the 80s to the 90s, and I want to bring us from the 90s to the current. And that has a lot to do with technology. We have a lot of young deputies. And I'm considering myself one of the old ones now. There's a lot of deputies that are a lot younger than me. And this is the age of computers, and 99% of what we do, you're going to be on a computer, you're going to investigate on a computer. Everything requires a search warrant. Training in the technology, implementing the technology, and embracing the technology is what's needed to make us competitive with the rest of these agencies. I mean, we're never going to be NYPD current. We don't have the budget. But we're going to try. The young deputies need to be trained to be leaders, and we need to focus on recruitment of younger people. I look at the internet, but I don't mess with it enough to figure my way around it. I'm starting to sound like one of the old guys again, but the internet and technology is the way for the future, and bringing in these young people, giving them responsibility for technology, I think is really important.
So 5 to 10 years from now, not only will the Southampton County Sheriff's Office be an accredited agency, we will be going through the reaccreditation process. So we will get our accreditation and we will maintain those standards that are expected out of a 21st century law enforcement agency today. As a leader, my #1 job is to build future leaders. And so we're going to stay focused on the men and women who wear a badge because it's your life, it's your property that's on the line every day that they're out there serving you guys. So we're going to remain focused on them. 10 years from now, the Southampton County Sheriff's Office will continue to be engaged with every segment of our population. That means we're going to be engaged with our young people. We're going to be engaged with our senior citizens. Again, what we are starting come January 1st is a new way of doing law enforcement in this county. It's something that, again, it's something you guys deserve. Whether we're 10 years or 15 years or 20 years behind the times, we've got to get caught up with 21st century policing strategies in this county. You guys deserve it. You pay for it. You should expect that out of your sheriff's office. You should expect a professional law enforcement organization. That's what the Southampton County Sheriff's Office will be 10 years from now. They are that way now, but it's not documented and it's not shown, and that's a lack of leadership.
Accreditation, I'll agree with Tommy, that's the way we gotta go to get our future going. We gotta get accredited. Accreditation means so much, and like Mark said, we gotta get to the 21st century. You know, there's all kinds of stuff that, they got computers in the car and things like this, but there's a lot of stuff, especially solving crime. There's so much out there now that you can load up and find out and Google and all kinds of stuff that is maybe not as readily available to help solve crime. So yes, we have to move forward. But there is one interesting piece to this, the future. This is a 4-year job. So you got to do what you're going to do in 4 years, and you hope that you satisfy the customer so you can remain to do another 4 years. So to see the future, what I would like to do is move forward 4 years and hope that it would continue to grow and that we wouldn't back up to where we were, and hopefully it does move forward. So,
Okay. What policy is in place for promotions at your agency to ensure the most qualified person is picked for the position, especially on the command staff level? And if elected as sheriff, what policies will you put in place for promotions?
I'm not sure about the sheriff's office. I can only tell you what I went through when I got promoted to wife. You took a written test, and then you had to become one of 5 out of the state. You had to be one of the top 5 out of the state to get an interview. You went through a 2-phase interview to be selected out of that interview. And then you were either promoted from there to any position in the state. That's the process that we had. I'm not sure about the sheriff's office.
Again, I'm not sure what the current policy is. But come January 1st, there will be a progressive discipline policy. So there will be policies that talk about discipline and infractions and what the consequences are for those infractions are. As far as promotional, we're going to have a competitive promotional process. That's going to mean that if there's a position that's available, that position will be posted. The job requirements for that position, including years of experience, education, or whatever else that goes into that job, that's going to be posted for all to see. And then there'll be ample opportunity for those that are interested in those positions to submit resumes, to submit letters of interest, and then we'll have a process to go through. It may require a written test. It may be that we bring in outside law enforcement command staff from other agencies throughout Tidewater, and it consists of an oral board for review. They will make that recommendation to the chief deputy. The chief deputy then will make a recommendation to the sheriff. Under my administration, the chief deputy will handle the hiring, and he will handle the firing, because I'm also putting in a grievance process. And if I'm disciplining somebody as a sheriff and I have a grievance policy, it doesn't make any sense if I'm handing down the discipline that now they grieve it to me. I'm the very person that handed it down. So the chief deputy is going to be responsible for the hiring recommendations. He'll make a recommendation to the sheriff. I'll either go on that recommendation or not, and it's the same thing, that'll work with discipline as well. But it will be in policy. That policy will be guided by accreditation and the standards that you're required to meet and to be an accredited agency.
Well, I can tell you currently, and I mentioned it in my opening statement, the sheriff has the ultimate authority to hire, fire, promote, or demote. He could quite literally fire the entire office tomorrow and hire everybody in here, give them a badge and a gun, and there's no recourse for it. I'm a big proponent of taking bias out of the equation. Our office is way too small for any employee to feel like they're going to progress when a supervisor or the sheriff makes a recommendation because they've known them forever. I like the panel interview idea that a lot of other departments use. They bring in command staff and rank and structure from outside agencies who do not know the candidate who may be up for promotion, and they base their decision on their interview and they present that to the sheriff. Now, obviously the sheriff can turn it down, but if it gets rid of the bias and the deputies feel a competitive spirit, they're going to work harder, they're going to try harder, and they're going to realize what it takes to get promoted.
First of all, when it comes down to promotions, I'm all for promoting people who work hard for and do the job well. I think by seeing a person every day, you get to see what that person can do and what he cannot do. And if you got a sergeant slot and you got several people that you're looking at, then yeah, you have a panel and you interview those persons, and which one of the persons that you see that comes out on the top, that's the one that you want to select for your sergeant. But I mean, I don't believe in just saying, you know, you're who you are because I'm saying who you are. Then again, the sheriff do have the pledge to hire and fire. So therefore, you know, when it comes down to promotions, I'm going to be looking that if it's more than one, yeah, we will have a panel and we'll look at the best qualified person.
Who is your largest financial support other than yourself?
No one. I do not have a Taj Mahal going on. I will tell you, I know some people probably spend a whole lot more money than my wife has. I had a budget set for this. I have spent that budget. It's $5,000, and I've spent it. And that's where I'm at. And well, I ain't gonna go into this time.
So all of my financial documents are on file. You can go to the Department of Elections website. You can look for Potiphar Sheriff, and you can download them. We had to file the most recent one a couple of weeks ago. I'll tell you that our campaign, as of this week, has raised right at $17,000 towards this election. My largest donor was a longtime friend of mine. He's a businessman in Portsmouth. His name is Mike Dunn. He gave me $2,000 towards our campaign. Other than that, I would say that 90% of the contributions that we've gotten have come from people that live right here in this county and have been for $200 or less. So that's, and again, if you want to see our financials from day one, mine are on file. You can go right to the website. I think for these guys, you have to request them through the treasurer's or through the registrar's office.
So before I ran, I chose my father as my treasurer because he's the most honest man I've ever met. And if anybody questions how he spends money, then you don't know my dad. There's two names that come to mind because I get money, I give it to my dad, he does the report, we go over it. It's either going to be Jack Randall or Darlene Woodard, and I can't remember which one is which as the biggest donor.
The most of my campaign funds have come from general citizens around the county. I can say that, you know, a lot of them Some of them know me, some of them don't. But they do know the work that I have done for the last 34 years. When you first asked that question, I thought you was asking who's my largest donor. And I was going to say my wife, but she's got my back all the time. But there again, I do have a lot of people from around the county that is supporting me, and if I need something, I don't ask. I have never asked one person to give me anything towards my campaign. Everything has come in out as good as other people themselves. So therefore, they're not asking for a favor, because I can tell them right now, there's no favor when you're sending money. I believe in doing my job, and that's for first.
This question's about EMS, and I'm not sure how it's affected by what I saw in the paper yesterday about Franklin taking over the EMS, but it says if appropriate funding could be obtained, would you support and implement an emergency medical dispatcher system? And would you be willing to support the combination of Franklin, Southampton dispatch centers into a central dispatch?
So most definitely, it's not whether we can obtain funding or not. January 1st, we're going to start working towards having our 911 operators trained in emergency medical dispatch. This is an extremely large county, and if one of our volunteer rescue squads is on a call and they are transporting to the hospital and we're having to page out for a second crew, that person on the other end of the phone, that is your lifeblood. And I want them to be able to give you very clear and concise instructions until that EMS agency can get there. So we're definitely going to start working towards that. Those instructions that they give you might very well save your life or save your child's life. And so we're going to do that. We've also talked about co-dispatching deputies on all fire and EMS calls. And so if there's a deputy near where that EMS call is dispatched, I want them to know about it, because I want them to be able to go in and evaluate the situation and relay that back. As far as combining the 911 centers, that's definitely something we probably can study. I know that is the trend through law enforcement and EMS now. Hertford County just recently did it in North Carolina. In Isle of Wight, we have a combined 911 center. Our dispatchers dispatch for the Sheriff's Office, the Town of Windsor, the Town of Smithfield, and all the volunteer fire and EMS agencies. It has its problems at times, but by and large, it works very well. But that's something we'll have to take a look at and see if that is conducive to the system here in Southampton County. But on the EMD dispatch, oh, most definitely, that's going to be one of our short-term goals.
I'm all for the emergency medical dispatch, and the reason I say that is, you as a citizen, if you're out there, you don't care who comes to you, as long as somebody comes to you and give you help. So there again, I am for that emergency medical dispatch. Now, as far as the combining, there again, I have to agree with Tommy on that. That's something that we're going to have to look at and study for a little while and see what is in the best interest for the city and the county as a whole.
Yes, I have to agree with them. It is very important. You know, you have a golden hour there that these EMS people want to make sure they meet. And if you're out there in a crashed car and your time's ticking, especially on one of these roads back here, it might be a few minutes before somebody comes by to even call it in. If you're not even able to call it in yourself. So time is very crucial. So yes, those people that you're talking to on the dispatch can tell you a lot of information is going to be critical. How to maybe just put take your belt off and put it around the leg and stop the bleeding. You know, just very, very good instructions on what to do until EMS can arrive. And so far as centralizing, it works in some places. I think that's something that's probably had to be a table talk and look at and work, because you're talking about, again, just like the courthouse issue, you're trying to get Franklin and Southampton to work together here on this issue. It would be the same here. Who's going to put how much money in and stuff. So, but yes, I do agree with it. I think it's definitely needs to be looked at.
I'm definitely not opposed to it, but there's a lot of work we got to do before we can get there. I've been in dispatch when the proverbial stuff hit the fan. I've been in there, and it still happens to this day. There are times when there is one dispatcher working, and she's answering fire, EMS, police, and administrative lines. And that's absolutely unacceptable for there ever to be one dispatcher. Two in there, we can't pull it off with just two, because to do an EMD dispatch, one of them has to dedicate themselves to stay on that line until a human being gets there and takes over. Now, I've seen it done in other jurisdictions, but you're talking about a room with 6, 7, or 8 different dispatchers in there, and it's one's job to answer that phone and run it until, like I said. So it should be our goal, and we should implement it, but those are positions. Positions require funding from the county. Asking the county to give us extra positions is the hurdle we got to jump over first.
So we're at our 8:30 mark, and we said that we would stop at 8:30 with our questions. I know some of the questions didn't get answered, but the candidates are going to be around. If you have a question that you want to personally ask them, please come and address it. We're also going to give candidates 2 more minutes to come up, and if there's anything that you want to tell the audience in this last 2 minutes, please do. John, we're going to give you first chance.
All right, thank you. No, I really appreciate the large crowd. This is great. You have 4 well-qualified candidates up here. You're going to have to make a tough choice come November the 5th. The sheriff's position is a very high-powered job, and you've got to make a decision on who you want to carry that. And I've said it in every one of these things. You know, I'm just John Brown. No matter what you put in front of my name, whether it's Mr., Sheriff, Trooper, Sergeant, Manager, you know, I'm still going to be John Brown. And I would certainly appreciate your vote on November the 5th.
Again, I also want to agree with John to thank you for all of you that have come out tonight to listen to us, and all of you that came out to the previous forums. We've laid out our platform February 17th at about 12:30 or about 11:30 in the morning. We announced that we were running for this office of sheriff. We put out a platform of law enforcement being accountable, focused, and engaged. We've not deviated from that one bit the entire 7 months. We have held town hall communities in almost every community in this county and this citizen for the sole purpose of listening to what your concerns are. We've attended every single town council meeting of every town in this county to listen to what the concerns of your town representatives are. We believe in taking extreme ownership in this community. And we fall back on, guys, that you deserve a law enforcement agency that is accountable, focused, and engaged. And because of that, and because of a fresh perspective and a new way of doing things in this county, that's why I ask for your vote on November the 5th.
Well, if I knew campaigning would be this fun, I'd have done it a long time ago. That is obviously a joke. This has been a very long year, so I'm going to use this minute and some change left just to thank my wife, because she has been my rock. She's my event coordinator, my impromptu campaign manager. When I feel lazy, sit on the couch, she puts her foot in my butt and makes me get out and do work. There's a lot of blue shirts in here, and I appreciate every one of you. I really learned, and I've got, less than a month and some change left before there's an election. Think about every candidate. That's what I'm telling my spiel when I knock on doors. Read everybody's information, make a good choice, make an informed choice. And coming out here tonight, I thank all of you for coming, because I'm hoping that you can gather some information that you could use. Thank you.
Once again, I would like to thank each of you for coming out this afternoon to be informed. Again, I took ownership in the county, 1984 when I came to work at the sheriff's office. And I can tell you, I've been out there for a long time helping people, all I could help people. And this is what we as a sheriff need to do. Get out and help our citizens when they need help, protect them, and serve them as well. I'll assure you, if you vote Josh A. Wright Sr. for sheriff, November the 5th, 2019, that protecting and serving will continue. Thank you.
So we thank you all for coming. We're going to ask the candidates to stay up here so they can get to you for their questions. Please don't forget the ladies for Commissioner of Revenue and for Treasurer.